Kaya. Kaya Kwaba Kiji Jinang Nunda, Mangamang Yaranga Wadandi Buja. Hello, good to see you all together on Wadandi Buja, on Wadandi country. Nalak Kadich Wadandi Yunga Jali, the traditional owner Wadandi Buja. This council recognises the Wadandi people, the traditional custodians of this beautiful Wadandi Buja. I'd like to advise councillors and public that this council meeting is being live streamed, so can you please ensure you use your microphones when you speak. Item 2 on the agenda is attendance, and we have, I do not have any apologies, 2.1. 2.2, we have approved leave of absence from Councillor Greg Boland and Councillor Nikki Jones. Item 3 on the agenda is disclosures of interest, and I have not received any. Item 4, public questions. 4.1, response to previous public questions taken on notice. There are none. And 4.2, public question time, 4.2.1 in regards to Shambhala Hobson Road, Osmington, and these questions were from Ariane Prevost. And Ariane, are you happy to just see those when the minutes are published? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. So move to the next item on the agenda, and that is 4.2.2 in regards to item 11.2.1, the mobile food business policy, and these questions are from Benedetta Simoni. Are you in the crowd there? Hi. Would you like to read out your questions? If you could please come to the, and put the mic on if it's not already, and state your name and address, please, before you start with your questions.
My name is Greg Neville. I'm just talking in representing Bernadette and Maurizio Lanza. They're up in Broome at the moment. First question is, have the council took into consideration the fact of food vendors parking spot? It's not big enough for 2 food vendors at the same time. Bump in and bump out of 2 food trucks will not be possible given the size of the actual designated spot.
Yes, thank you. So the Shire staff have taken this into consideration in regards to this policy. If 2 mobile businesses are operating at the same time with trailers, they will be required to park the trailer and unhitch the trailer. The vendors could also be arranged so that there is a stall on the grass and a mobile business in the parking bay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have 6 questions in total.
Yeah, that's okay. Would you like to read them out and then I'll answer them all at the end, or I can answer each one at a time?
One at a time, if that's
okay. Not a problem. Yep.
Second question is, have the council considered the recent power issue we have faced in the month of February and March?
Yeah, the power issues were caused by a fault in Western Power's infrastructure, and Western Power attended at the time and resolved the issue. There was a secondary issue caused by a food business with a faulty power lead, resulting in vendors being required to update and testing and tagging of their electrical leads. Okay,
thank you. Question 3. If the spot will be shared between 2 food vendors, will the price of the annual fee be half or shared with other vendors?
So the price of the annual fee will remain the same.
Okay.
Yep.
Question 4. Have you considered the parking in the reserve surface point will not be enough for the volume of people?
So the Shire accepts that the amount of people who can be accommodated at Surfers Point is limited by the amount of parking available. This only tends to become a significant issue in our peak tourism and summer times.
Okay. Question 5. Have you considered the impact on the business in Prevelly like Sea Garden and the Common?
Yes, that has been a consideration. However, these businesses offer a different customer experience. If individual business owners have any concerns, then the Shire would be happy and keen to hear from them at any time.
Thank you. Question 6. Do you know that putting 2 savoury food vans will end up in making no profits for either of the two and ruin both the businesses and their hard work?
So the Shire will consider which businesses would operate together most successfully based on the applications it receives, which it receives in response to the expressions of interest. So through
Okay.
that process.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other public questions? Yes, come to the stand, please, and state your name and address.
Elizabeth Reid, 193 Juniper Road, Gracetown. I've been a permanent resident of Gracetown for 22 years. Thanks for allowing me to ask a few questions tonight. I just have a couple of questions around the proposed mobile food van site in Gracetown and the proposed Gracetown infrastructure plan. As outlined in the draft mobile food van policy document, the proposed location of mobile food vans is in direct conflict with schematic 6 as outlined in the Gracetown infrastructure plan. My question is, has anyone compared the two proposed plans in regards to the location of mobile food vans?
Thank you, Elizabeth. I will defer to my planning staff in regards to that question.
Through the chair, apologies, I didn't know the question was coming, and I don't have both those plans available to me at the moment.
So just to point out, for example, the proposed mobile food van entry-exit point is designated for an exposed aggregate pathway with a static park bench blocking the entry and exit site for mobile food vans. In addition, the proposed site for mobile food vans is designated for an enhanced revegetation and landscaping area.
I'll have to take that question on notice. Thank you, Elizabeth.
There's just one more point I'd like to make. In the proposed mobile food van policy document, the problems noted include issues with power and lighting and garbage disposal, such as deep fryer oil. I reviewed the Gracetown infrastructure plan and note there is a complete absence of any proposed infrastructure upgrades for the proposed mobile food van site. Have any of these points at all been considered?
Yeah, I believe they have, and they were addressed in the agenda, but I'll just defer to the Director of Planning to answer that question. Thanks.
Yes, through the chair, in the main, the mobile food vans can be self-contained, and they can operate in different ways in different locations. So certainly through the expression of interest process, should a mobile food van be able to be considered at Gracetown in the future, pending council decision, it may be that there are particular kind of requirements on how that food van operates to make sure that they're not, I guess, putting an impost on what little infrastructure is there.
So will these points be included in the infrastructure plan? I note they're not prioritised or even present in its current form.
Sorry, through the chair, if I could just, are you referring to...
The Gracetown infrastructure plan that we discussed at May 22? Maybe?
Sure, but are you referring to modifying the outcomes of that plan to accommodate the food van?
So in the plan it notes that there's several problems for mobile food vans at the proposed site, and in the infrastructure plan there's no proposal to address those issues?
Through the chair, I think if we're going to look at the location that's been put forward in the policy, there would clearly need to be some work done. I don't think we're kind of necessarily bound to restricting the operation of a food van through making sure, say, that the park bench goes in place. We would have to work those two things together to make sure that they kind of worked in concert, if you like.
And for disposal of things like deep fryer fat oil, where will they go to?
Again, through the chair, basically most of those things are self-contained. So the food vans that do deep frying, if you like, typically take those things with them when they go. So they bump in and bump out with their waste and their equipment that they need.
Yep.
One more point, sorry, for consideration. With the entry-exit point, has the council considered that most food vans only have a window on one side of the van, so they may not just be able to reverse directly into the site? They'll have to go past the toilet block and reverse the other way?
Defer that to yourself.
Yeah, again, through the chair, there's probably some, logistical issues with manoeuvring that will need to be dealt with, and if there's some form of constraint there that means that there's some minor modifications that make getting the van in there easier, then that will need to be done before they operate.
So there will be amendments made to the infrastructure plan to address these issues?
Again, through the chair, it's probably not critical that we amend the infrastructure plan to deal with the kind of, micro scale of
Well, I think they're quite
detail.
macro.
Okay, I'll just, sorry.
detail that we're talking about. So
Sorry, I'll just interrupt there and I guess recognise that the policy is there to guide the decisions, and the terms within the policy will guide the officers on our behalf to, we delegate those decisions to the officers through the EOI process, and under the Public Health Act, things like deep fry oil and other requirements will be addressed. So, but I think we'll just leave it at that unless you've got any other questions.
No, that's fine. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth. Okay, so are there any other public questions? No? Okay, we'll move now on to item 5, which is applications for leave of absence, and I believe we have one.
Yes, I took leave of absence for the ordinary council meeting in August, which I think is the 28th.
Okay, so Councillor Earl, you'd like to move that?
Yes, thank you.
Seconder? Councillor Muir, we're going to allow Councillor Earl to have a meeting off? Let's put that to the vote, councillors. That's 6-0, that's passed, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 6, confirmation of meetings of minutes, of the previous meeting, 6.1, the OCM held on the 26th of June 24. Do I have a councillor to move that motion, please? Councillor Earl and Councillor Muir. Any questions in regards to that? No, let's put that to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? 6-0, thank you. Next item is 7, deputations. 7.1 in regards to item 11.2.1, mobile food business policy. Ian Englert. Ian, would you like to come to the stand, please, and state your name and address prior to your deputation?
My God, if you don't know my name and address by now, there's something wrong. Ian Englert, Gracetown.
Thanks.
Well, if you'd like my telephone number, I'll give it to you.
I don't think we need that, thanks, Ian.
You haven't started your stopwatch yet, have you? Righto. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me back again. This is the last chance, I guess, and you probably won't hear about it again after tonight. So firstly, councillors and staff, I just want to go through a few points that have come up in the past. Remember, if somebody warns you or tells you you may be going against state government and local government policies, you guys are running the show down here, not people in Perth. And more importantly, I don't want you to forget that policies are in place merely as a guide. Policies aren't the law, and you can change them when and if you want to. One policy for Gracetown, if you like, one policy for Quaramup, one policy for Margaret River, as you wish. Second point, just regarding this supposed Gracie's monopoly, the main protagonist for food vans wouldn't know this because they haven't lived full-time in the Gracetown town site. But in the past years, a takeaway food shop, a restaurant and other businesses have operated in the building right next door to Gracetown, next door to Gracie's, They all finished up because they found it, amongst other things, difficult to trade with the huge overheads that they got. However, at least at that time, they were competing with Gracie's on a level playing field. Now it would appear in order to break Gracie's monopoly is to set up another business in the best location in town on the beach and have the Shire charge them next to nothing to operate there. Originally, the main instigator wanted a food van to operate at Gracie's main beach car park. However, When they thought about the huge parking problems in that area, the location was immediately changed to the grassy area near the public toilets and change rooms. This is really interesting because it was only a few months after that local Gracetown mums were wanting to have a children's playground located at the beach near the public toilets and change rooms. Suddenly, the GCBC committee felt that it was really not an appropriate place to have kids playing. In regard to the much talked about GCBC survey, when an independent poll was taken asking permanent Gracetown residents, not absentee landowners and tourists, if they wanted food vans at the beach, 27 out of the 30 people interviewed said no. 3 didn't care. They also maintained that the GCBC had never contacted them for their views when the original survey was done. It really doesn't seem fair to me, anyway, with Gracie's having overheads totalling nearly $300,000 a year, for example, Shire rates, wages, insurance, electricity, government taxes, rents, well, of course the rent's not much, etc., to operate a mere 200 to 300 metres from Gracie's store for a cost of around $2,000 a year. As you know, Gracie's make their main profit in the summer months, so it's really obvious that if these profits are reduced, staff would have to be reduced to compensate. I'm certain if any one of you people here, or even the main food van protagonist, lived in the Gracetown town site and owned the Gracie's business with their huge overheads, none of you would really want a food van set up 200 to 300 metres from your front door. Before you make any decisions tonight on the food van rantings, I urge you all to remember Gracie's provide the local tennis club, the Gracetown Fire Brigade, Volunteer Fire Brigade, the Volunteer Sea Search and Rescue with a hell of a lot of ongoing support. They also provide the Gracetown hamlet population with their fuel, post office needs, newspapers, general store food requirements, alcohol, and have done so for more than 60 years. As you can see, Gracetown supports the local community and the Shire by way of huge rates. Now, Gracie's needs your support and encouragement. If a van has to operate in the bay, then perhaps a location further away from the shop could be considered. For example, South Point Car Park, or even the Boat Ramp Car Park, as a couple of examples. So I think for the first time I'm finished. Thanks for having me and good luck. Tough job.
Thank you, Mr Inglet, and great timing there with your deputation. We'll now move on to another deputation from Peter Gleed in regards to item 11.2.2, Scheme Amendment number 80.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. Peter Gleed from 65 Connolly Road, Margaret River, and I'm accompanied by Mr John Lowe from the estate developer. His address is 46 Tarina Street, Netherlands.
Councillors, sorry to interrupt, Peter. Mr Gleed has requested slightly more time for this deputation, which I will allow. So if you'd like to proceed, Mr Gleed, thank you.
Thank you. How do I work this? Big button, is it? No, yep. Okay, thank you, councillors and Madam Chair, for allowing us to do this. You've obviously talked a bit about amendment number 80 in the Q&A session this afternoon, but just some quick background. The purpose of the amendment that we've submitted was to establish some consistency between this estate and your other industrial estates in the Shire by adjusting several use class designations, and the officer's recommendations in regard to that component of the amendment are supported by the proponent. The second part was to enable retail activity to occur in the estate, provided it's incidental to the industrial activity. The officer's recommendation only supports that activity in the buffer industry precinct, which you would have seen earlier on the screen. This proponent submission on the amendment sought to correct a formatting error in the document. It was originally intended that the provision of retail was to apply to all 3 precincts in the estate, but unfortunately there was a formatting error in the amendment document, so that's why we've made a submission on the retail component. In addition to that, after the document was submitted, it was determined that there's a lot of advantage as a result of market response to allowing caretakers dwelling to be included as a discretionary use in all 3 precincts, and that submission obviously has not been supported. So just looking quickly at the retail activity, the provision that you can see up there in italics, retail activity is limited to that which is clearly incidental to the primary land use occurring on the site. That provision was developed in consultation with Shire staff, who also consulted with the Planning Commission staff in Bunbury. It was agreed that we proceed with the amendment. As I said earlier, it was the intention that the provision would apply to all 3 precincts, but unfortunately a formatting error means that we've had to make a submission on that to get it into the 3 precincts. I'll just go past the 3rd bullet point there. I've had clarification that in the officer's recommendation that they are supporting the provision of retail activity in the buffer industry precinct. So you can just ignore my comment in that 3rd bullet point. Inclusion of the specific provision provides clear certainty to buyers. In other words, there's no doubt that a retail component of their business can be established, and not stating it means that it's left to interpretation, therefore creates an element of doubt, and that doubt affects purchasing decisions. We're not promoting standalone retail activity. It's only for activity that's incidental to the primary industrial land use. This approach should apply to all the industrial activity across the estate, because some retail component exists with most industrial uses. And some examples are you've got a concrete batching plant in Margaret River that is a retail outlet for bricks and pavers from other sources. And you've got a mower and chainsaw business that sells a myriad of accessories. There's a number of examples where there's a retail component, whether it's a general, a light or a buffer type industry. With respect to the caretaker's dwelling component, you would have all read the submission arguing for inclusion at the council's discretion, and I emphasise discretion, of a caretaker's dwelling or accommodation as part of an established industrial use. Under the town planning process, we have to call it a caretaker's dwelling, but clearly it's not promoting standalone dwellings. We've done some research, and there's 21 local authorities south of the Peel region that have the same approach in their scheme. And there's numerous estates in the northwest that have similar opportunities. An example that stands out is Broom's Blue Haze Light Industrial Area, which is a state government development project, where a caretaker's dwelling is permitted across the estate as an incidental use. And their situations are similar to Margaret River. Shortage of housing, shortage of employee accommodation options, the advantages of having on-site surveillance, particularly with Margaret River where it's quite remote from the development front and will be for a long time, and the dual use, of course, of establishing a business and a dwelling for business people that want to do a start-up business. Now, the planning report refers to a WAPC report. That only very briefly refers to amenity issues affecting caretakers' dwellings, and it relates mainly to the Perth and Peel regions. This industrial estate has got 2 other precincts, a buffer industry and light industry. Now, the applicant would accept the use of caretakers' dwelling being limited to those 2 precincts, and it would be an X-use in a general industry precinct. And that would result in 40 out of the 71, or 56% of the estate having that provision. It seems to suggest sometimes in the officer's report there's going to be a proliferation of standalone dwellings, but that's not the intent. The intent is only to allow occupants that are related to the business through ownership or employment, and it cannot be occupied in advance of the business being established. As I said earlier, the proponent's request is outlined in the submission. It reflects market response to pre-sales programs. Concerns are being expressed by potential buyers over those elements that I mentioned earlier. We propose, or the proponents propose, to impose notifications on the titles so that it's clear to anyone buying in the estate that there may be caretaker's dwellings in those two precincts, the buffer and the light industry precincts, and the occupation of such dwellings is undertaken with full knowledge of potential impacts from adjoining industries. I'll just hand over to John to quickly talk through some of the challenges of the estate in terms of developing this estate. Over to you, John. I'll shift this once you've described that a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Good evening all. John Lowe. I'm a valuer by trade. I'm a minority shareholder in the ownership entity of this estate and the appointed project manager. So just to give you a bit of context and background, there's 71 lots in total that have been approved under our subdivision approval. They range in size between 2,500 to 3,700 odd square metres. That requirement of the 2,500 was based on the fact that there's no provision of sewer. Within the three industry zones, there's 23 lots in the buffer industry, which is that yellow outline there. There's 17 lots have a light industrial zoning, which is the blue area down to the southeast, and then there's 25 lots have a general industry zoning. We propose that the estate will probably take 8 to 10 years to fill out, which is based on 20 to 25 lots being released in stage 1, which would be the western portion of the site, and then another 10 to 12 lots each 2 years after that for the subsequent stages. Some of the challenges that we're coming up against to get stage 1 up and running are associated with some upfront infrastructure costs, which will be in the vicinity of $2.5 million to extend the water main down from John Archibald Drive. There's that component. There's upgrades to the entry statement for main roads and upgrade of the power. So all of those costs have to be funded up front, even though they'll flow through into the latter stages of the estate. So if we release 25 lots in stage 1, our total cost base is effectively going to be $12.5 million. And so this is just a few metrics just to give you a bit of a feel of how the funding aspects might fit together. So there's $12.5 million in cost. If we releasing 25 lots, then that's effectively a break-even point of $500,000 per lot. Of that $12.5 million in cost, we would probably get funding of up to $10 million, and those funding provisions would require that all of those sales be unconditional and would have to settle within 3 months of the titles being issued. So that means out of the 25 lots that are going to be released, 20 of them have to achieve an unconditional sales status for us to get the funding to progress with it. Given the current parameters associated with some of the uses, achieving that threshold of 20 unconditional sales is very unlikely. The reason for that is that if there's a retail component incorporated into a development, but there's no direction as to whether that's permitted or not, then the buyer can't go unconditional because they can't get an approval until the lot's created. So we have this juxtaposition whereby they want to buy the lot but they can't get approval, but we can't develop the lot because they can't go unconditional. And so what we're trying to do is refine these outcomes to facilitate the contracts going unconditional early on in the process.
So you've got 2 minutes, if you
sure.
can wrap it up. Yep, thank
Okay.
you.
So, in summary, there's sort of 3 aspects to any development. One is the planning aspect, one is the funding aspect, and one is the buyer profile and who the end users are going to be. So the current interface on our project on these 3 fronts is not ideal, and we think it can be improved so that the overall outcome for the project is enhanced. And part of that process is what we're going through now, is to create certainty on some of the uses for the buyers that will facilitate the bankability of the project, basically. So Pete, back to you.
Okay. Madam Chair, just to quickly conclude, what we're seeking the Council resolve to do tonight is to modify the amendment to allow the incidental retail activity in all those 3 precincts. Also modify the amendment to specify the caretaker's dwelling as a D use, noting that the Council can advertise a D use. In the R17A, which is a buffer industry, and the R17B light industry precincts, and make it an X use in the general industry precinct. And that the other recommendations regarding the adjustments to the various use classes, which has been supported, that they also be accepted by the Council. We're at pains to point out that if there's still a need for the Council to consider this whole sort of scenario that we've been putting to you today, we're more than happy for this to be deferred so that we can engage in further discussions if you think that's beneficial. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr Gleed. Okay, councillors, we move on to item 8, petitions, and I don't believe there are any. Item 9, announcements from presiding member. So I have a brief announcement to make, and of course, councillors, this is our first council meeting with our new CEO, Andrea Selvey, so I'd officially and formally like to welcome you to the council in the Shire of Augusta Margaret River. Andrea's moved from the Shire of Carnarvon to our Shire, and council really looks forward to working with Andrea, building on, I'm sure, and I'm really encouraged and confident that Andrea will lead and support our council and our Shire with courageous leadership, build genuine connections within our community, lead our innovative council, and build on the resilience in our community. So I look forward to introducing our new CEO to our many community members, organisations and stakeholders within this wonderful place that we are lucky enough to call home. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you very much, President Meldrum. It's an absolute delight to be here working with Council, and I really look forward to getting to know the community, becoming a part of the community, and of course, working with the wonderful team here at the Shire. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. This week we heard the passing of Anne Shepherdson. Anne was a truly incredible part of the tapestry, contributing to the unique fabric of our community in this Shire. She was much loved and will be sorely missed. Anne has been the heart and soul of Arts Margaret River over many decades. I was honoured to have celebrated the recent Arts Margaret River 50th anniversary at the Heart with her, and her significant and continued contribution to ensuring the community has fun, entertainment, and a connection through arts and culture was recognised. Her enthusiasm, her passion, her energy, and her desire to help others and pull together community has significantly helped shape our community, shape culture in our community. So on behalf of Council, we send much love and condolences to Lloyd and family. Councillors, we also have, and community, we have some upcoming Shire events. We have a business workshop with Ali Bannister, which is a free event at the library on the 29th to 30th of August, where we have all just, some of us may have experienced the Cabin Fever Festival wrapping up from the 12th to 21st of July. I hear it was well attended, and obviously a council contribution was made to this event through the major events grants. And just an update on the advocacy actions. Myself and the CEO recently met on Monday with Matt Kavanagh, the office of WA Senator Varun Ghosh, Minister Beasley and Minister Dawson, and we have planned some future meetings with Minister Kerry next week on the 30th of July, and also Minister Rees-Whitby. Thank you, councillors. Our next item on the agenda is item 10, questions from members, of which due notice has been given, and I do not believe there are any. And item 11, 11.2.1, local planning policy 13, mobile food policy. So, councillors, we have an officer recommendation in front of us there. Do I have a councillor to move the officer's recommendation? Councillor Earl. And a seconder, Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move an amendment, if I may.
Okay.
Which is the option 1 amendment, which is that we delete 5.6 out of the policy, and that we add a note that in preparing the expression of interest document, the staff will ensure the permits issued for Gracetown Beach shall allow operations after 4 p.m. only.
Okay. So, councillors, do I have... now, we're going to treat... There may be other amendments. We will treat each amendment at a time. So, do I have a councillor to second that amendment? Councillor Keno? Okay. Councillor Earl.
So, are we dealing both of those at this stage? Or just the first
yeah,
one?
if you're happy to.
I'm happy to do that, yeah. Look, yeah, just on this amendment, I think taking 5.6 out, it means that this policy becomes a clear Shire-wide policy, which is what we need. But providing the note in the expression of interest just lets the staff know and lets everyone know that we are out there looking after the bricks and mortar businesses. So I'd urge councillors to support this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Earl. Sorry, can I just clarify? This is different than the one that we were provided on the piece of paper. I just need to. So note that in preparing the EOR documentation, staff will ensure. The CEO will ensure that permits issued for Gracetown Beach shall allow operation. Sorry, it was just the difference in the CEO and staff, but it's appropriate that CEO is put there. Okay. Yeah, yep, okay. Councillor Keno, do you wish to speak to that? No. Do I have a councillor to speak against that amendment? Or to speak? Yes, Councillor Binks.
Yeah, thank you, Shire President. I have an issue with mentioning under proposed point 3 that it's Gracetown Beach only, because I think that we need to include Witchcliff in there as well. So I guess I will foreshadow an amendment that, once this gets through. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to do it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Do I have a councillor to speak for this amendment? I will allow a councillor to speak against this amendment. Councillor Dath.
Yeah, I think just going back over this whole process, the Shire administration has done due diligence with taking on board all the stuff that was said through the consultation with Gracetown. So I believe we should just leave it as the Shire staff have recommended it, because leaving it in the policy just helps the community feel like they've been heard through that whole consultation process. So I think we should just leave it in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dath. If there's no one else who wishes to speak, I'll give you right of reply, Councillor Earl. No. Okay, councillors, we'll put this to the vote. All those in favour of this amendment? That's 3. Sorry. Okay, so we've got 6 tonight. Sorry, councillors, I just haven't exercised the right of my casting vote yet in this role. So that is, sorry, that is lost because I am voting not in support of that amendment. So now you, Mr Binks, foreshadowed an amendment.
Thanks, Shire President. The amendment I wish to make reads very similar to option 1, except that I would like to include Gracetown Beach and Witchcliff. So point 3 of that would read, note that in preparing this EOR documentation, staff will ensure that permits issued for Gracetown Beach and Witchcliff shall allow operation after 4 p.m. only.
Okay, sorry, can I just clarify that? So it retains that 5.6 is removed as well, the previous point?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, as well as note that in preparation the EOR documentation, CEO will ensure that permits issued for Gracetown Beach and Witchcliff shall allow operation after 4 p.m. only.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do we have a councillor to second that amendment? Or, yeah, I need a seconder for that amendment. Councillor Earl? Okay. Councillor Binks?
Thank you, Shire President. I'm sorry, just a moment. I do believe that staff have done good work in what they have put forward to us, but as new information has come to light, we need to nip and tuck a little bit, and this is one of those nips and tucks, in that the removal of clause 5.6 I think is entirely appropriate, because as a council I don't believe that we should be building policy around specific businesses so much as the general services to the community and the zonings and facilities that communities have, which is point 2. So the removal of clause 5.6 removes the reference to a business name in particular. I think that's important because there are other areas within Gracetown that also have the opportunity to develop businesses that could be a restaurant or so on. So if they do, we have a policy that identifies a specific business when it really should be addressing all of the potential businesses in the community. So I think 5.6 is important. Removing 5.6, adding point 3 empowers the staff to issue permits, but considering the unique nuances of 2 of the communities, one being the Gracetown community and the other one being Witchcliff, this would prevent a situation in which potentially a mobile food and coffee van could be installed in the park next to where there are currently, I believe, 2 or 3 other coffee businesses as well. So I think that would be creating an unfair and unequitable situation within Witchcliff as well.
Can I just ask a question of the Director of Planning? This reference to Witchcliff in this foreshadowed amendment obviously just relates to Shire land in Witchcliff and the proposed location on the policy map? Correct. Okay. And my second question is, I'm just reminding myself of the detail on the agenda, but the feedback from Witchcliff in regards to operating a food van there was generally?
No significant objection.
No significant objection to Witchcliff?
That's my recollection.
Okay, and no mention of timing as well then, or?
No.
Okay, that was, yeah, my recollection. Okay. Councillor Earl, as seconder, do you wish to speak to this? Do I have a councillor to speak against this? Councillor Dath.
So I feel this is where we just voted, so I'll say the same thing. I feel like we should just leave in 5.6 as my previous point. I don't think the Witchcliff thing weighs in this. I might want to put up a different replacement for 5.5 to cover Witchcliff and Quarramup.
We do that, we'll deal with that separately. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Councillor Dath. Do I have a councillor to speak for that amendment? If there's no one else to speak against it, then I'll put it back to yourself, Councillor Binks, have the right of reply.
I have nothing to reply to.
Okay. Okay, councillors, so we will put this one to the vote. All those in favour of this amendment? That's going to be lost 3, 4. Sorry, those in. I'll vote the other way. So, those against this motion, please show your hand. No. So, and I have a casting vote, so that one is lost also. Okay, councillors, are there any other amendments proposed? Councillor Dath.
So I would like to see 5.5 replaced with the approved location shall have permit days and times restricted through the expressions of interest process to reduce conflict with existing food and beverage businesses and uses by community groups.
Okay, councillors, so that replace clause we've been provided with, and for clarity, I'm just ensuring that we're all clear on what we're voting for. In the current policy, the officer's recommendation, that currently reads, 5.5 reads, the approved locations shall have permits allocated so as to reduce conflict with existing food and beverage businesses. So this amendment by Councillor Dath is slightly different in the approved locations shall have permit days and times restricted through the expression of interest process to reduce conflict with existing food and beverage businesses and use by community groups. So I think we all understand the difference there. Do I have a councillor to second that amendment? Councillor Muir. Councillor Dath.
Yeah, just with what Councillor Binks mentioned before about Witchcliff, just that there has been a bit of talk about businesses and coffee vans, so that can be looked at by Shire staff in the expressions of interest process. There's also a bit of concern with Quarramup with the new businesses that have actually opened up commercial kitchens 7 days a week since the Your Say survey was done. So it would be good if that was considered when the timing, and I think the BMX club is mentioned there, so it'd be good if those businesses were considered in the process of which days and times were permitted in Quarramup as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Muir, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's important that we consider the implications not only for business groups but also for community groups that often use perhaps Friday nights or other occasions as their major fundraising opportunities, and I think it's important that that is stated in policy and considered across all the different areas in our Shire. So it's great to see that included.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a councillor to speak against that amendment? No, so we'll put that to the vote, councillors. All those in... Pardon?
I've actually got no idea what's going on here at the moment.
Okay, so Councillor Earl, this amendment is directly dealing with just clause 5.5. So in the officer's recommendation, 5 currently reads, the approved locations shall have permits allocated so as to reduce conflict with existing food and beverage businesses. This amendment says the approved location shall have permit days and times restricted through the expression of interest process to reduce conflict with existing food and beverage businesses and use by community groups. So it's added in permit days and times restricted, it's added in the expression of interest process, and it's also added in community groups, different to the officer's recommendation. So this amendment is not doing anything else with the policy, 5.6 or anything, it's just dealing with an amendment to clause 5.5.
My question would be is why this couldn't have been just brought in as an amendment originally and just add that straight in. We've gone around the countryside to get to the point of adding into this, and used by your community groups.
And expressions of interest. And it also says days and times, so there's a few different words, yeah. Okay, so do I have a councillor who wishes to speak against that amendment? All right, if there's no one to speak against it, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried 6-0. Councillors, are there any other amendments? Because that's become part of the substantive motion.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Earl.
I'd like to remove in 4.1, do not result in a deficit of car parking, and just delete that piece.
Okay, so Councillor Earl, you're proposing in 4.1 of the conditions of the policy to just remove the part there that says do not result in deficit of car parking? Yep, that's the only change. Okay, councillors, do I have someone to second that? Councillor Muir? Councillor Earl, would you like to speak to that? Councillor Muir? Okay, if there's anyone who wishes to speak against it? No, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried 6-0. Okay, so we now have amended 5.5 of the policy. We've amended 4.1 of the policy. Are there any other amendments from anyone? Okay, councillors, so those two amendments to 4.1 and 5.5 become part of the substantive motion and tie into the policy detail. So we'll now deal with that, and that was moved by yourself, I believe, Councillor Earl. And
just see the whole motion back up in front of us.
We'll just wait for that to come up on the screen. Sorry.
Just have a question. So we're leaving 5.6 in but changing 5.5?
At this stage, that's what has been conducted, yep. So if there's any other amendments, now's your chance. Otherwise, we're going to the substantive motion. I mean, we can talk to that and you can propose an amendment in regards to 5.6 if you wish in the debate, but we're just waiting for this to be consolidated. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Earl? Councillor Earl, I don't believe you've spoken to this, so now's your opportunity.
A question on this. So we've still got 5.6 in, do we?
Currently, correct. Currently in the 5.6, in the motion we are considering right now, says the approved location at Gracetown Beach shall have permits restricted to operate outside the normal business hours of the Gracetown General Store only.
But we still have 5.6 in the policy, don't we?
Yes, that's correct, and that's how it reads. Are there any further amendments? Or Councillor Earl, are you... That was a question, that wasn't you speaking to the motion? No, it wasn't. Okay, Councillor Binks?
Yes, I am going to Proposed amendment being that we remove 5.6.
Point of order?
Yes,
You can't because you've already made that decision.
that's correct. That has been, yep, that was my thought. So that has already been considered in the first amendment, so we cannot deal with that again. So 5.6 can be modified, but it cannot be removed, is my understanding. Okay, are we clear on that? So Councillor Earl.
I'm sorry, a question, please, Shire
Yes,
President. I'm
sure.
sorry about the messiness
okay.
of this, but it's
Ask
important that we understand.
Yeah.
Could I please have the wording of the first amendment that Councillor Earl moved, which are you saying is the one that in which we addressed 5.6?
The one that got lost? Yep,
Correct.
we'll just bring that up. So that's there on the screen, Councillor Binks. So there's two components to that amendment. One component was that clause 5.6 be removed, and the second is, as you can see there.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question then, through you, Shire President, to the CEO. The full amendment that Councillor Earl moved does include that as a point, but it also includes other information and other points, which if we had voted against that would have been a completely different outcome.
We'll just get some advice around this, councillors, before we proceed. If you can just be patient, please. Okay, we've sought some advice around that question, Councillor Binks. Now, in that first proposed amendment, there were two components, and that was lost. So you are able to move an amendment here in regards to 5.6, whatever that is, whether that be an amendment to that text or removal of that, it is substantially different. So from that first amendment, therefore you can do that, yes.
Thank you. I apologise about throwing the cat amongst the pigeons, so to speak. However, I do wish to move that as an amendment that we delete 5.6.
Okay, so Councillor Binks has moved that amendment that clause 5.6 be removed. Just to clarify, councillors, that says in the policy currently, the approved location at Gracetown Beach shall have permits restricted to operate outside the normal business hours of the Gracetown General Store only. Do I have a councillor to second that amendment? Councillor Earl. Councillor Binks.
Thank you. Shire President, I believe that it's entirely inappropriate for us to be referring to a specific business as we develop policy. And given that one of our values in the community strategic plan is that of equity, I think it is appropriate for us to having a level playing field, so that if other businesses come up again, that they experience the same level of conditions, rather than perhaps if it's the business next door, which is Gracetown General Store, they have this terrific arrangement so that the food van can't operate. But if I'm operating business XYZ next door or behind, I don't have that advantage. So I think it creates a level playing field, and I think it's important for us to do.
Okay, Councillor Earl, do you wish to speak to this? Do I have a councillor to speak against this amendment? Councillor Muir.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Binks. I take your point in regards to embracing equity. I think one of our key values is also listening to the community and ensuring that we have heard fully from all the various members of our community. And it's clear that in this case, Gracie's does operate as a business, but it also does many other services for the community. And it isn't, I guess, just another restaurant or another cafe. It operates as, I guess, lending out for the tennis club. We are all aware, I think, of the different services that it operates and the hub that it is in that community. The provision of permits ensures that there is some control over what hours a mobile food van operates, and gives some surety to any mobile food van that they can operate during certain hours. And I think that's really important. Obviously, we want to encourage diversity and activate that area, but we also want to recognise community consultation and the role that Gracie's plays in Gracetown. We want to ensure that it continues to flourish. So I can't support this amendment.
A councillor to speak for this amendment? Councillor Keno?
Yeah, I wish I had this level of support with my small business and people setting up in businesses similar to mine. I don't have that power, unfortunately. I really believe that the addition of 5.5, the approved location shall have permit days and times restricted through the expressions of interest process to reduce conflict with existing food and beverage businesses and used by community groups. That covers it in there. I don't think that we need to be singling out business by name. And I think if we go down that path, it's a very dangerous path to go down. I'm really hoping that 5.5 will cover all of those bases there. And yeah, I just think 5.6 should just be removed completely. Yeah.
Okay, a question has come to me in regards to this, and I just asked the Director of Planning, can you just explain the consideration of existing businesses and the permit process around it, so particularly the EOI process, and how consideration will be given?
Sure.
In regards to this place, this location, or any location? Thanks.
Through the Chair, if clause 5.6 is removed and falls away and clause 5.5 remains in its amended form, I just wanted to make it clear that when we go through the expression of interest process and when we issue subsequent permits, we will very likely restrict operating times in Gracetown in alignment with the recommendations we've made to council. So while I appreciate the sentiment about consistency and not dealing specifically with one issue in one location, I just want to make it clear if 5.6 comes out, there will still be restrictions put in place through the expression of interest and permit process that follows.
Okay, councillors, do I have anyone to speak against this amendment, which is removal of 5.6? Councillor Dath.
I think I've spoken to it every other time, but thanks, Mr. Logan, for your clarification there. But I guess for the community of Gracetown, the words very likely may be concerning with that. So I think that's why just leaving it in as is just gives them that reassurance that it's in policy and then it's firmed and it's set and they don't have to worry about any more of the process.
Thank you. Councillor to speak for that? I think we are done. So Councillor Binks, would you like the right of reply?
Yes, please. Thank you. I think it's important, and I thank Director Logan for clarifying that the 5.5 covers it, basically, and staff will have the ability to be able to place the appropriate restrictions on. I think that's important. The other thing I think is important is that if we are ever examined by anybody from the outside looking in, that they say this council does not set one rule for one person or one business and another rule for others. And I am one of the greatest supporters of Gracie's every day. And whilst it pains me to say this, I think that it's entirely inappropriate for us to create policy specifically identifying a business when we have the rest of the Shire and we are not laying those goalposts or ground rules for any single other business, just the one. We still have the capacity to place in the limitations and controls that we know are going to be healthy for our communities, but we are being more consistent by not naming a specific business. And that's what's at the genesis of this particular amendment. There's nothing else I need to mention. It's just a refining of the wording and making sure that we are on a path that is not potentially open to criticism down the track.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Okay, councillors, we put this amendment to the vote. All those in favour of removing 5.6? That's carried. That's carried 4-3. 4-2 rather. Right, so let's go back to the substantive motion. So we have those three amendments now tied into the primary motion. We've had 5.6 removed, 5.5 has been removed and replaced, and 4.1 has had admission. Councillor Dath?
Okay, can I add another amendment?
Sure.
Can we please add 5.6 back in with the new wording of the approved location at Gracetown Beach shall have permits restricted to operate after 4 p.m. only, because that removes the mention of the business Gracetown General Store.
So, Councillor Dath, since we've already considered that and previous amendments in relation to that, that amendment that you're proposing is substantially the same, very similar to those previous, is the advice I've received. So that's not permissible. Yeah. Sorry. So if there's no other amendments, we go to the substantive motion, as I just alluded to, with those three amendments. Now, Councillor Earl, you have the opportunity to speak to this primary motion.
Where would I start on this? we've actually gone a long way round the block to put Witchcliff in somewhere in there, I think. I'm not 100% certain what we did or we didn't do, but if you want to make substantive changes, I think, get your hands up early, councillors. That's part of the thing. You know, I was happy to make some changes. I'll get my hand up early. I'll make the changes. That's what you need to do as councillors. Or let us know what's going on. But anyway, this is a policy that has been around for some time. That in all cases when we've had this policy and we've worked and changed it, we've always had due respect for the bricks and mortar businesses out there, and I think almost in any way that we were having this, that you know, that we were helping and looking after the bricks and mortar businesses. But why do we end up like this? And I have to say, why do we end up with some of the comments and the angst by some people for and against this whole policy, which is a Shire-wide policy, that some people out there in the community managed to make a decision that they're anti it and for it, and next thing there seem to be emails and comments going around which were really uncalled for. And I expect out there in the community, sometimes you need to show some respect to the people who are have the concerns about the policy changes, and then you have to turn it over and leave it for us to make those decisions. Put your comments forward respectfully to us as councillors, respectfully to the staff as well, but not have, you know, it was most unfortunate that there was, in a very small community like Gracetown, we seem to have a couple of groups working for and against each other against this. So anyway, I support it.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Muir.
Thank you. This has been a very difficult decision-making process, but I think it has been important that we really have tried very hard to listen to all the different voices, and it's been vital that we did postpone it and consider it more deeply and think about all the different areas, including Witchcliff, Kawarramup and Gracetown. And we are really trying as a council, and thank you to the officers for your suggestions, which have been very helpful, to reach a policy that is equitable, that does activate our community and does encourage entrepreneurship. And I think that's what we finally reached. And I encourage everyone to embrace it, and hopefully we all can benefit from it.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Do I have a councillor who wishes to speak against this motion or for this motion? Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Binks.
Yeah, just very quickly. I'm completely happy with this now, satisfied that the staff will exercise their judgment when it comes to the permits that are issued, and as Councillor Earl suggested, considering the impact on the whole community. So I just wanted to express my thanks as well and my trust in the process now. So I support this motion. I support the whole policy. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Keno?
Yeah, just briefly. Councillor Earl's right, this has caused a lot of angst in the community. It's caused a split, it's caused a lot of tensions and things that perhaps shouldn't be there. I think the approach that we've ended up with here, dare I say it, applies some common sense, that someone can actually make a decision case by case. We haven't put things in boxes, we haven't got preconceived ideas. It gives us a little bit of an opportunity to apply that common sense and hopefully have some far better outcomes than dictating it all in the beginning. And hopefully at the end of the day, everyone will be happy with the outcomes that we have as best we can. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Anyone else wish to speak? No? Well, I'll just in summary, councillors, look, this has been a hot topic, of course, and policy within our council. You know, as Councillor Earl recognised, that's, you know, it's the challenge that we as the decision makers face, is balancing the different varying views in our community, and our job is to make decisions for the greater good and the, you know, to apply equity and inclusion. And so I think we've got to that here. I like the added words in regards to 5.5 for consistency, as Councillor Binks alluded to. The removal of 5.6, I'm confident, is not detrimental, because through the EOR process and the terms within the policy clearly stipulates that conflict with existing food and beverage businesses are a serious consideration that council is delegating our staff, capable staff, to make on our behalf. So I don't see it as being detrimental. And I'm pleased to see that change of that modification in terms of the car parking deficit, because obviously it can conflict with the success of, and the location of a food van. So I'm supportive of that. I think we've come to a good compromise. It has obviously, attracted a lot of attention. I wish to commend the staff on the detail and the level of consultation around this process. I think it was fair and thorough. I guess in conclusion, I have trust in the process that this detailed policy will guide our staff in making decisions that consider everyone. So put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried 6-0. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we move on to the next item, which is 11.2.2, and that is the scheme amendment number 80 to local planning scheme number 1. Do I have a councillor to move that officer's recommendation? Councillor Earl.
I'll move to defer this item for a further councillor briefing with staff and with the proponents.
Okay, so Councillor Earl's moved a procedural motion, and Councillor Binks wishes to second that. There's no debate. Let's put that to the vote, that we defer it. Okay, that's going to be deferred. Okay, councillors, the next item on the agenda is 11.3.1, which is financial activity statement for May 2024. Councillors, we have a recommendation there. Do I have a councillor to move that motion? Councillor Keno and a seconder. Councillor Binks. Councillor Keno. Councillor Binks. Let's put that to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour? That's 6-0. 11.3.2 is the list of payments for June 2024. We have a officer recommendation there. Councillor to move. Councillor Muir, seconder. Councillor Earl. Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl. Okay, councillors, we'll put that to the...
Just a comment, did you want to note that there will be a note to the minute to say there was error?
Yes. Yeah, I will just, sorry, folks, I will just note there that there was an administrative error that was identified, and that will be corrected in the minutes. And that's there on the screen. Okay, councillors, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Thank you. Next item is 11.3.3, and this is CEO recruitment compliance certification. So we are required to recognise this process. Officer recommendation, who would like to move that? Councillor Earl, seconder. Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl, would you like to speak to this?
Keep saying, councillor, put your hands up quick, otherwise we're going to be till 8 o'clock at night. Look, I think the process was good. I'd just like to use this opportunity to welcome the new CEO. Thank you for taking us up on the offer of the job. Really look forward to working with you over the time that I have left on council, but hope that it's a long and illustrious career here at Shire of Augusta Margaret River, in this marvellous freezing cold place from where you've come, other than where you've come from recently. So, yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Muir?
Yeah, I'd just like to second that and welcome the new CEO. You've been a delight so far, so I'm really looking forward to the road ahead. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Oh, look, I'll just conclude and also welcome you, Andrea. I'm really pleased that, we really did go through this rigorous process, and absolutely delighted. I think you're a really great fit for the organisation, and I'm supportive of this recommendation. So all those in favour, let's put it to the vote. That is 6-0, thank you. Okay, councillors, the big one, 11.3.4, the 2024-25 annual budget. Do I have a councillor to move? Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl. Councillor Muir.
Yeah, this has been a huge amount of work and a number of briefings and a lot of consideration, and I do really want to thank the staff for the enormous amount of work that they have put into this, continually answering our questions, and I know that we've all been through it carefully. It really has highlighted to me the responsibility that we have as councillors to recognise we have to cover our actual costs every year and consider, I guess, raising our rates. Otherwise, that has flow-on effects that have impacts on future generations and, I guess, negates their opportunities to have access to services and facilities. And we've really seen that in years where there haven't been appropriate rate rises. That has flow-on effects. And I think we've really tried to contain as much as possible in different business users, different business units, any increases and ensure that we've got efficiency happening. So, yeah, thank you for the hard work that's come to ensure this achieves the best outcome for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl.
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess this is my 15th budget since I've been around, and the biggest budget, but that's the nature of the beast. I've certainly seen some commentary around that, around the rate rises and around some of the, I guess, surplus funds or carryover funds, and some of that's in wages, of course. Far better to have some surplus carryover funds in wages than to have a deficit. It means you have not done your work properly, and those carryover figures we're getting better at making sure that that they're a bit closer to where the budget says they are. But budget is only a set of figures and the numbers for the starting point, which is basically right now. Everything changes after that, and slowly changes, and we can't be that rigid. We also need to remember, of course, that we are a rapidly growing shire. We continue. Our numbers are going up at 3.85 or 3.8%, and that's starting to compound out. It's not many years away where we'll be having another 1,000 people turn up to want to live in the Shire of Augusta Margaret River. It is still a very nice place to live, even with all these people coming. So says somebody that's been here for his whole life. It's a great place to live, so you've got to expect the people are going to come. We also need to make sure that we do have the money, the funds to deal with some of the issues that are being caused, and certainly to deal with some of those issues caused by an enormous amount of tourism that comes down here, and that's something that we need to deal with through our advocacy of the state government. They need to put their hands in their pocket a bit more so that the pressure comes off our ratepayers to make sure that that our beaches and our roads and then all those things that the tourists come to see and use, that we can look after them properly, and that's a responsibility that we really need to get through to the state and feds. That particularly the state, who uses the Augusta Margaret River Shire and this Capes region as their number one attractor to tourism for interstate and overseas. Well, they need to get their hands in their pockets on some of the big surpluses that they're having around the place. So, but councillors, and staff, well done. I think we've had a number of workshops. We've worked our way through this, so I very much support it and ask all councillors to support it.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anyone else wish to speak for this or against? Yes, Councillor Vinks.
Thank you, Shire President. Listen, I just wanted to thank Ms Stevens and your team and all of the other staff who have worked together hard to create a solid, robust budget. I would also like to acknowledge the previous councils, of which our Councillor Earl and Councillor Keno have participated in the past, for placing us in the position that we are in today. And my hope is in the future years, when other councillors come and sit down and they look at the condition of the Shire and our finances, that they may just look at us and say, well done, guys, because I think we're in a good position. Yeah, certainly do. So thanks to you and everybody else, and there we go.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Keno.
I'd also like to thank Ms Stevens and the staff, because this might look pretty simple to everyone in the community, but I wouldn't have your job for all the money in the world. It's a massive, massive job, and the way that you explain it and work with us and answer all of our silly questions are much appreciated. Councillor Binks, in response to you, and that small business people know how to scrimp and save. And yeah, so it's and that's what we have to do here. We have to treat everything like it's our own and not bow to everybody's whims, and that's really, really hard sometimes, but we have to get that happy balance where the community has good outcomes. But yeah, it's hard to say no sometimes. But yeah, thank you again to everyone that put all the work into it. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Well, I'll wrap it up, councillors. I also, commend the staff on this budget. It's been a thorough process for council, various opportunities, obviously, to determine this end result. And in regards to some of the other councillors' comments, we have had a significant rise in population, 26% increase, in fact, since 2016 to 2023. That is a very large increase. And of course, with that comes increased pressure on our assets and infrastructure and services that we provide. And in regards to the 4.9% rate rise, it is not insignificant, but we must recognise that it is our job to provide and maintain services and facilities that our community require to be a well-functioning and supported community with, an array of considerations over the various assets that we manage and we upgrade and we maintain. And, reminding, I guess, in terms of the carryovers, I'm really pleased to see actually that this budget has the least carryover figure than we've had in previous years, and it's getting lower and lower. So that's really great. It shows that we're, really acting more financially diligent in terms of being quite clear and realistic about what we can achieve in that period of time, over the yearly budget. So, pleased to see that. And I guess a reminder that, a majority of our staff are part of an EBA, and that component of the budget is, it is what it is. But of course, in regards to Councillor Earle's comments, we must continue to advocate to higher levels of government to put their hand in their pockets to help us maintain, all that comes with being a top tourism town, and certainly, focusing on that financial assistance grants returning back to 1% of general tax revenue. It's just not good enough at the current rate. So, in summary, thanks for all the work that's gone into this, staff. I'm absolutely happy to pass this budget. And on that note, let's do that, shall we? All those in favour? That is carried 6-0. Well done, councillors. So, the next item is 11.3.5. So this is the adoption of the 2024-25 differential rates, minimum payments and rate concessions. Have a councillor to move this, please. Councillor Binks, and a seconder, Councillor Keno. Councillor Binks.
I'll move it as written, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Keno. All right, is there any other councillor that wishes to speak to this or against it? All right, we'll put that to the vote then, councillors. All those in favour? 6-0. That's passed. Another significant council document, the corporate business plan, item 11.3.5. So this is our corporate business plan 24 to 28. Do I have a councillor to move this, please? Councillor Earle, and a seconder? Councillor Muir. Councillor Earle? Councillor Muir? Anyone else wish to speak to this? Well, I'm going to speak to this in that I've read this a few times, and I'm actually really proud and pleased to be part of a council that passes this corporate business plan. It's really, progressive yet realistic at the same time. There's, I think it really spells out what we're hoping to achieve in the next 4 years. And of course, feeds into our workforce plan and annual budget. But I'm really pleased with this review of this plan and confident that it's going to guide the organisation to reach council's vision. So Let's put that to the vote, shall we? All those in favour? 6-0, thank you. The next item on the agenda is 11.4.1. This is the macro music concert. So, councillors, we have a recommendation there for in-principle support, and then the delegation of approval to the CEO subject to permits and licences and compliance and requirements. So do I have a councillor to move that? Councillor Muir and a Councillor Dath. Councillor Muir.
I'm really excited to see this coming to us and the possibility of this event. It's an excellent report which shows a large degree of consultation with key community groups and agencies. Really excited that it's an all ages event. And it provides an opportunity for community groups to fundraise through parking and different avenues. There's also, of course, a bond on the Oval, which I think is really important, and there's also a fee as well, so our community does get something back from it, and there will obviously be spend of goers to the event. So I do look forward to it and commend this to fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Councillor Dath.
I'll just reiterate what Councillor Muir said, and I think that the Shire staff report on this was excellent. They did due diligence. They went through every stakeholder and engagement, and they listened to our feedback. And yeah, having the all ages is quite exciting for our youth. I think it's really good to see that kind of Margaret River Masters event brought back is after many years of it not being here is pretty exciting for the community. I can't wait for them to all hear about this and get behind it. And, as a local small business owner, the influx of people to the town, hopefully for a whole weekend, and we look forward to them spending their dollars here.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this item? Councillor Earl.
Look, I'll speak in favour of it, and having been part of some of these concerts over the millennium gone past, it's been quite a number of years since we've had them, and they used to generally be tied up with the surfing comp. But there was a standalone one there many years ago, which was Hunters and Collectors on the lower Western Oval. Some of you, the people out here, weren't even born when they're probably out there, so. But there are some concerns that I would have that the Oval out here is our premier ground in our Shire, and in past times it has had some damage done to it. And we need to be really careful and diligent around how we deal with that. And I know that these days with concerts and other things, there is far better covers or planking and stuff that they put down to protect the areas, because we do, it is, this whole precinct is very much well used and well loved, and we just need to be careful that everything's in play, and I'm sure it will be, that that we don't get damage that perhaps causes problem down the track. It's certainly got a few months before the footy season starts. There are other users of the Oval, so we need to it's just, I guess, a word to the wise to the staff to make sure that if this thing does go ahead, that we really are mindful of our Oval out here and how that will end up and what the recovery time will be around that. So look, yeah, but it's terrific to have these things back in our town, and it does attract interesting people.
Any other councillor wish to speak for this? Again, I'll just conclude and say I'm really pleased to see the preliminary stakeholder engagement that's gone around this process, and just reflecting on Councillor Earl's comments in regards to the Oval. I think what's assisting me in making this decision of in-principle support is clearly the engagement that's happened. So the football club, they're supportive. They see it as a great opportunity, and also, and more probably importantly, the City of Busselton, who have had previous, workings and dealings with this business, and they are good operators. So I'm really pleased to hear that, and that's a great reference for us to inform our in-principle support. And thirdly, the bond amount that will be collected will be will be obviously beneficial in the need of any repairs. So, yeah, this is a great event. I was really pleased to see that the youth are going to have the opportunity to participate, and, yeah, I'm fully supportive of this. So let's put it to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? That is 6-0. Okay, and item 12, motions from members of which previous notice has been given. So I gave a notice of motion on the 12th of July 24, as we can see here, councillors, that council requests the CEO initiate formation of a committee comprising of councillors and employees for the purpose of determining the Shire's advocacy approach and priorities by developing an instrument of appointment and delegation to be reported back to council for consideration. Do I have a councillor to move that? Councillor Muir, and a seconder? Councillor Earl? Councillor Muir?
Yeah, I think we're all well aware of how important this is. We need to advocate more strongly for our priorities and ensure that government, state and federal understand, I guess, the issues that we're facing. A 26% increase in population, a huge increase in tourism. We're hearing from a hospital, they're overwhelmed, they're dealing with mental health issues, physical issues, our police force, and then the strain on our roads and waste. We can't bear that and put the strain on our ratepayers. It needs to be recognised by our government, which sells us to the world, and we need, I guess, more input. So I look forward to this being put in place.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, thank you. I support this this recommendation and this motion. I guess we need to look back over time that there were periods of significant funding, and probably the recent time was around COVID, but that's all starting to dry up. But prior to that, we had the Royalties and Regions funds that came out, which got us our Main Street, got us our Perimeter Road, probably got us some of the other stuff that's not necessarily for us, but it's our community, like the high school and things like that. So, and while we as a Shire need to be advocating for things for the Shire, but other things that we need to probably seriously try and advocate for out there is the upgrade to the high school and some of our schools, because, you know, while apparently you women out there are not having enough kids up here to be down this way, so the high school is bursting at the seams. So they're things that I think probably, I suspect that this will be, we can advocate for that in that, because it is for our community. I just saw 2 more transportables go in there this week, so that's just symptomatic of what's going on all over the place with the people that are turning up. So again, as I said earlier on in the budget speech, that, you know, the state and feds have got to start to put their hand in their pocket to look after those of us who are actually out there and our communities are effectively doing all the hard work and paying for most of this stuff. Well, they need to start to get their hands in their pocket to provide us with some of this funding. You know, we've got $17.5 million out there for the Wood Andy track to get that finished. Well, where is it and when's it happening and how's it going ahead? So, very much support it.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion?
I guess something else I wouldn't mind putting on the record is I noticed that the last state budget, large statements were made about money being spent in the southwest. You know, we heard large statements about $20 million for roads, and that was about a roundabout on, you know, the Forest Highway. I think we need to really hold the ministers to account in spending in our area, and as Councillor Earl has stated, we need definitive outcomes, and so I really do want to see that happen.
Yeah, look, just to reiterate all your comments, would you like to speak to Councillor Banks? Yeah, I'm glad that we're all on the same page with this. It's time we made some noise, and this provides a framework for us to do that. So let's get on with it. Yeah, great. All those in favour of this motion? That is 6-0. Okay, 13 motions for consideration at next meeting. There are none, as far as I know. No new business of an urgent nature from us or the CEO. There is no confidential business. Therefore, I close this meeting at 7:09 p.m. Thank you all for your attendance. Thanks, councillors. Thank you, staff.